I think that this proposal, well, this is my first reaction, of course, more than a drawback, would be a step further on the way to reach an agreement, and I deem quite possible to reach, not yet there, but quite possible to reach, so to say, an agreement in principle at the G20 level, working very hard in the next weeks. And of course, then this agreement in principle should be translated in details and a lot of work to be done at the OECD level. So my view is a positive one.
Well, thank you very much for your question. We have seen recently increase in yields, and we are very closely monitoring those matters. But in June, we will have a new set of projections at the time of our monetary policy Governing Council meeting, and we will make at that time an updated joint assessment of the favourability of financing condition in the context of the new inflation outlook that will result from the projection. Our commitment to the euro area is to maintain favourable financing conditions throughout the whole pandemic period. And that will guide our management of the Pandemic Emergency Purchase Programme. Pandemics are uncertain, I've mentioned that. What is certain is that we are committed to preserving the favourable financing conditions using the PEP envelope, and to do so until at least March 22. So it is far too early, and it's actually unnecessary to debate longer-term issues. Our focus in June is going to be on favourable financing conditions offered to the economy at large and to all sectors in the context of the inflation outlook. And I have repeatedly said that policymakers need to provide the right bridge across the pandemic well into the recovery so that we can actually deliver on our mandate. And that's what we will do. This will be the focus. Thank you.
So the focus of the Portuguese presidency has been correctly on how we can implement the agreement that we reached in November. The agreement that we reached in November looked at a more significant role for the European Stability Mechanism, for the Single Resolution Fund, in the context of acute financial difficulty. And much of our focus in recent months has been about how we can operationalise that and how we can bring that into force. The work that has been happening in parallel to that consists of our efforts to agree before the Eurozone summit before the summer regarding how we can structure our work that will then take place across the remainder of this year and in 2022. The key themes of the discussion that we are having is how we can move forward on all of the different work streams that are involved in banking union. As you'll know, the key work streams in which we need to make further progress focus on where we are with EDIS, where we are with cross-border financial integration, where we are with our crisis management framework, and how we can engage with each other in relation to those key work streams. So that work is underway at the moment. We have further work to do in the context of our Eurogroup meeting in June, and we're working hard in that meeting then to reach an agreement on how we will structure our work in the months and the years ahead. So the focus at the moment is on planning on the next phase. Of course there are challenges in relation to it, but we're working hard to reach an agreement on a framework.
There were quite a lot of factors and developments that we are seeing at the moment that were actually already included in our previous projection from last March. And what we will do in June is to look at that new set of projections, and in particular the inflation outlook. And we will then measure that in a way across, or jointly assess the financing conditions that we are committed to preserve in order to decide our monetary policy decision in June. But as I said, it is way too early and unnecessary to ask ourselves now, those sort of medium to long-term questions. For the moment, we really have to focus on financing, favourable financing conditions in the context of the inflation outlook. So I don't want to prejudge. The projection will be released on June the 10th. We will be working on those in the days before, and that's what we should really focus on.
Thank you, Bjork, for your question. It really feels like the Eurovision now when I look up at you on a screen like that. But to deal with your second question first, I'm absolutely committed. I'm working intensely with all ministers within the Eurogroup to come up with a roadmap regarding how we can make progress in the period ahead. The mandate that we that was then endorsed by our leaders. Of course there are challenges, of course there are debates, but all of us have acknowledged that while we are making progress in our recovery, it is a recovery that we need to ensure that it's deep-rooted, we need to ensure that it is resilient, and we need to ensure that it is sustained. And in order to do that, there is a common acknowledgement within the Eurogroup that we need to identify areas in which we can make further progress in the context of what we were able to secure in November. So all that can be done will be done to deliver against that time frame, and I'll be working very hard in the next few weeks to deliver that priority. If I may, in relation to your first question, this is the very reason we have Next Generation EU. Paolo and the Commission have done an exceptional job in organising an intervention of this magnitude and looking to execute it swiftly. And that is one of the ways in which the investment that we need, not only to support our recovery within Europe, but also by doing that to ensure Europe continues to be competitive, continues to be the world that we want it to be, will be enabled and will be delivered across the coming period. And in addition to that, both last summer, again in February, the Eurogroup agreed a very strong political statement regarding the need for a continued supportive stance in our economies for this year and for next year to ensure that we have a recovery that really takes hold. And by doing that, that will create the conditions then for the kind of investment that our citizens and our businesses need.
Thank you. Please.
No, just one word on the first question you posed. Well, of course, the answer is always we, US and EU, are different. Indeed, the fiscal response was such a strong one in the European side. If we mix the national responses with the European one, that they are quite comparable. Then for the next period, of course, we are looking to the ambition of these stimulus packages coming from the US. And I personally am looking to these packages with sympathy. It is not something that could damage our economies. Indeed, we will have also a positive spillover from the American stimulus packages, and we also measured this spillover in around 0.5% in the forecast period as the Commission. Are we finished with our effort? Of course not. All the message that we are giving is that we have to keep our supportive fiscal stance, and we know that we have a tremendous need of public investment in the next few years if we are serious with our green and digital transitions. But now the time is to implement what we have decided 1 year ago with ratification and implementation of the plans and the first disbursements. Well, in relation to the thresholds, you know that the Commission is by default the guardian of the treaty, so it's for sure not for a member of the Commission to say that we want to change our treaties. This is very good discussion going on in several countries, but it's not to me to enter in this. Of course, we will reopen our discussion on fiscal rules in the second part of the year with the intention to have a proposal towards the end of the year with more certainty in the situation of our recovery and our perspectives. But the debate is going on in several countries, and rightly so. We know that we had problems to update our fiscal rules, and we have adding problems coming from the level of the debt and coming from the need of public investment. We will, and I count also on the President of the Eurogroup. By the way, this is an ECOFIN issue, but I'm sure that the President of the Eurogroup will help in the difficult task to build consensus on this issue.
And we are always looking to the future. And the clear view of all of us here is, as we look into the future, we look into the rest of this year and into next year. We believe we have achieved much, but we are so conscious of the difficulty of the challenge that citizens all across Europe face. We are so conscious of the challenges that employers face at the moment in rebuilding their businesses. And while we can see an improvement, and an important improvement, in our economic circumstances in the second half of the year, that is what we need to begin the recovery. It's not all of the recovery. And all of us are going to be very, very determined and careful regarding how we guide our economies through the challenges that we're now confronting. We're making progress, but we need to make more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.